couple of these as we go through. They're just testimonials of people that currently work in the educational college system from around Ontario. We recently had a alumni reception. Excuse me. We had an alumni reception, and we asked a few presidents and vice presidents what they felt of CMU graduates, and so that's what you'll see coming out of here. So the degree program itself is 33 semester hours total, okay? That's 11 3-credit courses. Each course has to meet for a minimum of 36 face-to-face contact hours, which equals 12 hours per weekend. Excuse me, 12 hours per weekend, 4 hours on Friday night, 8 hours on Saturday. So that's how it breaks out. The degree completion should be about 30 to 36 months. And really that last 6-month process is all predicated on how long it takes for you to finish your final project, right?
Your
final project.
Or your thesis.
Which is an option. I'll explain it in just a moment, and it'll make a little bit more sense. Here's some of the learning objectives. Really what the program is designed for is for two tracks, one faculty and one staff. And you'll have a healthy mix of both. And if you're on either side of the line, I guess, what the learning objectives are for those of you that aren't, let's say you're a faculty member and you're not in administration. What they want you to know is to understand what administration is going through in order to operate and run a college, right? And conversely, if you're in administration and have never been staff, you're learning exactly what it is for your staff to go through, or your faculty to go through day-to-day classroom operations, lesson planning, dealing with, acting out in the classroom, discipline, all of those things that you have to go through as a faculty member. Also, everything should be applicable, okay? So everything that you're currently working on, you should be able to apply it to whatever you're currently working on. So let's say it's curriculum development, right? If you're a faculty member, well, that's easy. It helps you develop whatever curriculum that you're currently teaching to your students. Let's say you're a staff member, an administrator. How does curriculum development help you? Well, you can tailor that project in order to create a professional development plan for your staff, right? So no matter what it is that you're currently working on, it's supposed to be applicable to something that you need. Thank you. I appreciate that. One of the topics that you'll be addressing, and I know many of you may know this, so if I'm repeating myself, please go ahead and throw something at me. I do respond to most things. Is that the difference between what's called pedagogy, the development and understanding of learning from a child's perspective, or until the brain fully develops at 21 to 23 years old, and andragogy, which is how adults learn and how they obtain information. Same concept with children that learn language. They're much more easily adept to obtaining a new language when you're a child, because you learn it differently, you associate it differently than you are when you're an adult. You almost have to, it's a memorization focus more so when you're an adult. Doesn't mean that people don't learn multiple languages once they become 30 and older, right? But there's a different way of learning it, and understanding the differences in those learning really makes the difference between understanding how that student is going to receive the information and better able to teach it to them, right? So for those of you that are working in, the faculty capacity, do we use the same style of teaching for adults as we do for, the 19-year-old, the 18-year-old? And if we do, is that a successful way of teaching? And then after speaking with Shelley, I know that the non-traditional student, right, has become more prominent here at Lambton. So it's one of those things that you have them sitting in the same classroom. So how do you address both needs at the same time? It's a fascinating environment now, because traditionally you didn't have that. You only had the 18-year-old. You just one lesson played, and pretty much touched them all, and that was it. But a lot has changed. Here are the actual list of courses. And a lot of this information is in that packet. So don't worry about writing it all down, unless you like to. I know some people it helps connect. There is one class, one course that will be taught online, okay? And that's the EDU 590 course. The director of the program feels, and most people tend to agree with it, in the 21st century, if you're going through any educational degree program, especially one that is driven for educators to educate, whether from a faculty side or an administrator side, you must have an online experience to understand what students are going through, as it becomes a more popular and common medium to deliver education and learning.
Yeah, they do the same thing with the police. I hear they get pepper spray in their eyes.
Yeah, no, that's true. And the stun gun too, don't they?
I don't know, we have to ask our expert.
Is that true?
I was out before they came in the stun gun.
Oh, okay.
Never affected me a bit.
That's an interesting, I will be sure to use that in the future.
I apologize.
No.
I think mine is sometimes.
That's great. This bottom course right here is your final course. Okay. I should mention this EDU 660, Methods of Educational Research. It will be referred to as your stats class, for those of you who may or may not have had statistics in the past. That is that class, but it really does mean methodologies of research. It's just that learning objectives aren't about, you're going to be touching a standard deviation and bell curve mean and all that kind of stuff, but it's not hardcore statistics. It's just understanding how to do research, because you have to do research for this class, right? And that's your capstone project. And I'm going to briefly talk about this. You have two options for that program, okay, for that last class. One is an applicable project for a problem that you're currently facing and want to solve at Lambton, or whatever you want to do in life, right? So that means that, let's say you want to develop a new curriculum for a brand new program that you want to offer, a new course that hasn't been offered before. That could be part of the final capstone project, and that would be a project. You'll have to do a literary bibliography, you'll have to do some background research on it, but then you'll have to develop it, and it has to be an actionable plan that you can implement. Okay? The other one is a traditional thesis, minus one part. So you do your 5-chapter thesis, where develop a literary bibliography, statement of purpose, what your theory is, how you plan on solving it, and then you do your research. So you send out your surveys, do subject-based research, gather all of it back, evaluate it, and then come up with the end. But the nice part is you don't have to do what's called an oral defense. So you don't sit here and 5 people on the other side firing questions at you where you have to defend it. Okay? It just goes to, actually it starts with your capstone professor, and then it goes from there to a panel of faculty on CMU's main campus. And then from there it goes to the director of MA in education that you saw earlier. Now, each one is going to give it a mark. If it falls within what we consider one letter grade, A, B, C, or D, right, then they give what the first reviewer's grade was, first mark. If it's more than one grade variance, then they come back and, they get together and say, well, why did you do this? What's the difference? Where are we losing focus? Rarely does that happen because they're all on the same page. It's the same thing as going through that oral defense, but you don't actually have to sit in the hot seat, right? Which is a nice thing. But if you want to go on to a PhD, you want to do that traditional thesis process. Okay, you want to write that paper as opposed to the project. But a lot of people say, hey, I'm standing in the classroom, this is the last form of education outside of continuing education that I'm going to do, and all I want to do is just make sure that I have something when I'm done, it helps my job out, it makes things easier. I can do something to move forward, right? And that is an option. Here are the concentration courses. And again, each one of these are specifically designed to discuss issues in Ontario and the college system in Ontario. And that's where the 602, what I was talking about, andragogy and pedagogy, and introducing those into the same classroom. Contemporary issues is what's going on in the provincial government and the national government and funding and all of that kind of fun stuff. And then your very first class is called The Community College. And it starts off with the history, why it was founded, where it's going, all of that kind of stuff. And one thing that I should mention, you have very, very, very few tests. You may have 1 or 2 at the most. It's not about memorization at the master's level. What the professors want you to know, or want to make sure that you know, or have the ability to do, is comprehend the theory that they're giving you, apply it to a problem that you currently have, and then solve that problem. Okay? It's all about applied-based knowledge. So you're going to do a lot of presentations, there'll be a lot of research papers that you write, and you'll do a lot of projects. Some of them alone, some of them in groups. Okay? But it's going to be more, how do we actually use this knowledge to move forward than, the year that the community college system was enacted was in 1965, or whatever the date may be. It's not about that.